Okay, so 19 years, nearly 2 decades. They were like the absolute gold standard, weren't they? Hollywood's couple that, actually seemed to last.
The rare example of lasting love, I think, was the phrase everyone used. Untouchable.
Exactly. But then the news dropped last month, and it wasn't just your standard conscious uncoupling statement. It felt violent, like a door slamming shut.
Yeah, and the shockwave wasn't just that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were over. It was how.
This is the core of it, right? The headlines screaming this was not mutual. Sources were immediately saying Nicole was blindsided, totally devastated.
And apparently fighting desperately to save the marriage, right up until the very, very end, which makes the whole thing even more brutal.
Welcome to Starscope Report, everyone. Join us as we break down all the Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and, the celebrity scandals.
We go behind the headlines, from the red carpet smiles to, well, the less glamorous reality hidden in private court documents.
Trying to give you the real picture.
And today, our mission is really to get into the complex and, frankly, pretty painful unraveling of this specific marriage, the Kidman-Urban split.
We have to look past that simple narrative of, oh, they just drifted apart.
Exactly. Because the sources, they're painting a very different picture. One of a kind of clinical, one-sided legal ending happening while one person is still fighting, emotionally resisting.
So for you listening, if you're trying to figure out how a 19-year partnership just implodes?
This divorce is, well, it's a stark lesson, isn't it? About the gap between legal paperwork and actually being emotionally ready for the end.
Okay, let's really unpack that dynamic, that one-sidedness, because it feels like the absolute center of this whole story.
It really does.
All those initial reports, the sources coming out of the woodwork, they all hammered that point home. This was his decision, primarily.
Right. They said Kidman did not want the separation. She was actively trying to save things, still fighting to save the marriage.
It paints this picture of just profound distress, especially for someone who already went through such a public split before with Tom Cruise.
And this leads us to what we're calling the blindside paradox. It's fascinating.
Okay, explain that.
Well, you have all these sources describing Kidman as so upset, devastated, and the key word, blindsided, completely caught off guard.
Yeah.
But then you look at the legal documents, and they tell a story of, like, meticulous preparation. Weeks, maybe months in the making.
How did those two things even coexist? That's the massive contradiction, isn't it?
It is.
If she signed legal papers spelling out custody, property division, weeks before it all went public, how can she be truly blindsided? Is that just spin? Crisis PR trying to paint her as the victim?
Look, I think it's deeper than just PR spin, although that's always part of it, right? Let's look at the dates.
Okay.
The court documents show Keith Urban signed the parenting plan on August 29th, 2025.
Right.
Nicole Kidman signed it a week later, September 6th. And the divorce wasn't publicly filed until September 30th.
So she did participate in the process, weeks before the news broke.
She participated in the logistics, yes, but think about what that might mean emotionally. Signing doesn't automatically equal acceptance, does it?
Explain that distinction. What do you mean?
Well, the sources suggest that signing those papers could have been her, sort of, preparing for the worst-case scenario legally, covering the bases, while still desperately hoping he'd change his mind.
Okay, so going through the motions legally, but emotionally still fighting, maybe even in denial.
Precisely. She's ticking the procedural boxes, the cold, hard facts of separation, but maybe her heart and her hope were still invested in reconciliation.
So the blind side wasn't the process starting, but the moment the hammer actually fell.
Exactly. The moment Keith presumably made it unequivocally clear, this is it. It's absolutely 100% over. There's no going back. That's the emotional blindside, the finality.
That makes sense. That's the shock that would devastate someone still fighting. And you see her reaction immediately focusing, right. While he apparently moved out, she stayed. She stayed in the Nashville home with the girls, Sunday Rose, who's 17 now.
And Faith Margaret, 14.
Yeah. And the narrative instantly became about her holding the family together, positioning her as that anchor parent, facing this thing she didn't want.
It's a really stark contrast, isn't it? You've got this emotional chaos and resistance on her side, and then the cold, clinical precision of the legal agreements on the other.
Standard ground cited, right?
Yeah.
Marital difficulties and irreconcilable differences. The usual stuff.
The usual stuff, yeah. But the documents themselves, showing they were in the works for well over a month, That points to a very calculated plan for dissolution, not just a sudden breakdown.
Okay, let's get into this clinical details then. The custody arrangement first. It sounds incredibly specific.
Oh, it really is. And it tells a story in itself. It clearly spells out who the primary anchor for the children will be going forward.
So Kidman's named the primary residential parent.
Yeah, meaning the kids are with her 360 days a year. Keith Urban gets 59 days.
Wow, 306 versus 59. That's a significant split.
It's not arbitrary, right?
Right.
It speaks volumes about maybe the existing family dynamics, who's been more geographically stable, perhaps. But it also reflects the legal reality when one parent becomes the clear primary caregiver post-split.
And there was more, wasn't there, about decision-making?
Yeah, crucially, Nicole holds the final decision-making authority. If they disagree on big things, education, health, general welfare, her decision is the one that stands.
So the legal papers basically codify the emotional reality we were just talking about. She secures the kids, she anchors the family, but she loses the marriage she was fighting for. It legally cements that maternal role.
Exactly. Paramount in the dissolution process. Legally binding.
But obviously that stability comes at a massive emotional price, which
Yeah.
brings us, I guess, to the money side of things.
Right, the financial severing. And this is where, as you said, the story moves from just sad and complex to, well, kind of explosive.
Yeah, okay, so on the surface, it looked pretty clean, right?
Very clean. Both waive spouse support. They both apparently earn well over the $100,000 a month threshold, so that wasn't really an issue.
And Keith prepaid all child support obligations, which sounds like they just wanted a clean break. No future financial ties, no monthly checks, changing hands.
Cut and dry. Zero future entanglement seemed to be the goal. But then we hit that prenup detail,
Yeah.
the one everyone started talking about.
Oh, yes, the notorious cocaine clause.
That's the one. And this provision is so critical because it tangles money directly with sobriety, the very issue that defined the start of their marriage.
You remember right. He went into rehab just 4 months after they got married back in 2006.
And Nicole was famously the one who staged the intervention, supported him through it, talked publicly about her commitment to his recovery. She was seen as instrumental in that.
So what did this clause actually stipulate?
Well, according to the reports, it allegedly entitled Keith Urban to a payment, get this, of $600,000 for every single year of the marriage that he remained sober.
$600,000 per year.
Per year. So after 19 years,
Yeah.
you do the math, that's potentially over $11 million.
Wow. Okay. Over $11 million paid out as part of the divorce settlement.
Exactly. And this detail, maybe more than anything else, reportedly turned what could have been a standard, clean financial separation into a source of just profound emotional injury for Nicole.
I can imagine. Tell us more about that impact, the psychology of it. Was the feeling that she was essentially paying him millions for staying sober, for doing something he arguably should have been doing anyway for himself and his family?
That seems to be exactly it, based on the sources.
Yeah.
They claim this clause left her feeling consumed with anger, deeply betrayed.
Yeah.
The resentment apparently comes from that exact idea, that he walks away from the marriage she fought to save, but walks away financially benefiting from the sobriety that she helped him maintain. Sobriety that was fundamental to the marriage, even lasting 19 years.
He was described as like rubbing salt into the wound, wasn't it?
That's the phrase used, yeah. It takes a standard financial payout
Yeah.
and turns it into this symbol of, well, perceived exploitation, maybe. It certainly helps explain the reported depth of her devastation. It's not just losing the marriage, it's the terms of the exit, feeling like a final betrayal.
Wow. Okay. It definitely casts their public appearances over the last year or so in a very different light, doesn't it? Makes you think her efforts to maintain that perfect image were even more, I don't know, desperate, aspirational.
Absolutely. Trying to project the ideal while behind the scenes, the legal machinery for the end was already grinding away.
Let's rewind then. Look at some of those moments with this new context. It's kind of chilling.
It really is. Think back to April 2024. The AFI Life Achievement Award Gala honoring Nicole.
Oh, I remember his speech. It was incredibly emotional.
Tearful, heartfelt. He credited her with choosing love, with literally saving him from addiction back in 2006. He said, Nick pushed through every negative voice, and she chose love. And here we are 18 years later.
18 years later, and less than a year before he apparently initiated the separation process that led to this, that hits differently now.
Completely different. And then fast forward just a couple of months, June 25th, 2025. This is after sources say they'd started living apart, after he'd already signed that parenting plan we talked about.
What happened then?
Nicole posts this black and white photo of them embracing on Instagram. The caption, "Happy anniversary, baby."
Wow. So she's still publicly performing the happy couple narrative, even when the private reality was, well, the opposite.
It looks like she was desperately fighting for that ideal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to maybe manifest the reality she wanted the world, and perhaps Keith himself to still believe in, campaigning for the marriage in public.
While his actions, or lack thereof, suggested he'd already mentally and emotionally checked out.
Seems that way. We see hints of that withdrawal in some of his media appearances around that time, too.
Like that radio interview.
Yeah, July 2025, right after that anniversary post. An interviewer asks him about Nicole doing intimate on-screen love scenes with younger actors.
And
His Zoom call.
Just abruptly disconnected. Convenient, right?
Yeah, very convenient.
And then there was another clip that resurfaced where he just looked visibly uncomfortable, kind of shifting in his seat. When someone prompted him to talk about their, quote-unquote, amazing love story.
he was shutting down that narrative, the one she was still trying so hard to project.
Exactly. Palpable discomfort, which makes you ask, if the love story was already over for him, why keep up the charade? But maybe the answer is just logistics, waiting for the legal ducks to be in a row before pulling the trigger publicly.
And their very last public appearance together, June 20th, 2025, at a soccer match in Nashville.
Yeah, the FIFA Club World Cup match. Looking back, body language experts jumped all over those photos later.
What did they say?
A definite lack of genuine emotion. Awkwardness. Distance. The public performance was starting to fray at the edges despite her efforts.
So this all leads us to the big question, right? The why. What finally broke the camel's back after 19 years?
This brings us to part 4. The reasons cited publicly are, well, the usual suspects for celebrity splits.
Demanding schedules. Distance.
Bingo. Huge divergent schedules. Nicole was off filming Practical Magic 2 in London for a chunk of time. Keith was crisscrossing the U.S. on his High and Alive world tour.
So the classic distance killed the intimacy argument. One source put it really bluntly, didn't they? Something like, Keith never sees Nicole.
Yeah, leading to intimacy fading, growing apart. But like you said, this is Hollywood. Crazy schedules are kind of the norm, aren't they? In Distance, just the easy, palatable excuse, or was it genuinely the tipping point here?
That's the million-dollar question. Is it the cover story or the real reason?
That's a great point. Divergent schedules is definitely the go-to celebrity breakup explanation for a sort of gentle, no-fault split. But maybe in this case, the sheer level of distance really did exacerbate underlying problems?
Maybe.
And what's interesting is the difference in perception. Sources close to Keith, his inner circle, apparently felt the split was kind of inevitable, like they saw it coming as a gradual drift.
Which contrasts so sharply with Nicole's reported shock.
Completely. It confirms that disconnect. He might have seen the end as this logical, maybe slow progression, while for her, it felt like a sudden, unexpected rupture.
Okay, the narrative doesn't actually stop there, does it? We have to talk about the other rumor, the really explosive one.
The elephant in the Nashville recording studio, perhaps?
Exactly. The unconfirmed, we have to stress unconfirmed, but very widely reported speculation that Keith Urban had already moved on with a new partner.
Yeah, multiple sources started alleging things like, all the signs point to the fact that Keith is with another woman, describing that rumor as being all over Nashville.
Now, again, nobody's confirmed this, but if it were true...
If it were true, it would suddenly explain a lot, wouldn't it? It would potentially explain the speed of the legal moves, the very unilateral nature of the split that left her blindsided, and the sheer depth of her reported devastation.
It shifts the whole story, doesn't it? From a sad, slow fade-out due to distance to an acute, maybe unexpected betrayal.
Which lines up much better with the blindsided narrative, frankly. Betrayal feels like a blindside. Drifting apart usually doesn't, not to that extent.
And facing betrayal, or even just profound shock, you need support. Which brings us to how Nicole handled the immediate aftermath.
Right, the sources really focus on her resilience, her reaction. Faced with this reality she apparently didn't want, what did she do?
She turned inwards, towards family, immediately leaning on her sister, Antonia.
Described as her absolute rock.
Yeah, and the report said the entire Kidman family just rallied around her instantly, reinforcing those really strong family ties she has.
It's almost like the Kidman doctrine in action, you could call it. Resilience, channeled through her role as a mother and anchored by unwavering family support.
She leans fully into being the primary parent, managing this huge public fallout with, well, typical Kidman grace and quiet resolve, it seems, all while supported by her sister and family.
She fought like hell for the marriage, by all accounts. But once that door was slammed shut, irrevocably closed, she immediately marshaled her resources, which are significant, right? Family love, financial independence, all focused on managing the future for her daughters.
So if we step back from all the details, what's the big takeaway here?
I think what really stands out is the immense, maybe the cost, of maintaining that perfect Hollywood ideal for so long, 19 years.
Projecting stability and love while the private reality involved, a meticulously detailed legal clauses about sobriety payments.
Exactly. And ultimately, a decision to end it that was apparently deeply one-sided, shattering that very image they'd cultivated. It leaves you with a final thought, maybe a provocative one for you listening.
Go on.
How often does one partner's intense fight to preserve the public ideal of a relationship actually blind them, prevent them from seeing the quiet, private reality that the other partner has already packed their bags and emotionally exited the building?
Wow. That's a heavy thought. The gap between the red carpet persona and the cold, hard facts in those court documents, it's often huge, isn't it? And rarely do the emotional timeline and the legal timeline actually line up.
Rarely ever.
Well, you've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.